to this computer. We're recording. I
Okay,
hope. Okay. You ready, Brendan?
sure, let's go with it.
Okay, first off, the easy softball. What first motivated you to study abroad, and why did you choose Vienna?
The interest to study abroad was just curiosity to do something different. I liked Boston College where I was, but I was looking for some new kind of experience. I couldn't really pinpoint it. Um, when I was 15 years old, I had done a trip, and there was still the Soviet Union and Scandinavia. I spent 6 weeks over there as a 15-year-old, and that was always, part of my DNA. In college, I was actually a major in math and Russian. So go back late 1970s, the idea of like studying abroad. Do you want to be in St. Petersburg in the middle of darn Russian winter? Probably not.
No.
Plus, you're still buying things at the foreign currency store. It wasn't all that appealing. I'd probably be dead fluent in Russian now, but I was looking for something else. Vienna presented the opportunity through IES to start a language from scratch. The classes were in English, but you could start a new language and add on like the cultural aspects there, which I want to explore. Again, between my sports and my math major and Russian, it wasn't like I explored much in terms of art history or music. And just curious to try those studies as well. So Vienna was the full package.
So you alluded to your sports background. What about your athletic background influenced your decision or mindset for study abroad in any way?
Um, I don't know that it influenced so much. I think if you're a college athlete and you're in one of the, let's call them an individual sport compared to, baseball or soccer or football where you have teammates or basketball. If you're an individual athlete doing something like, let me think, equestrian or tennis or golf or distance running, you have a lot more flexibility to go overseas and try things. When I actually got to Vienna, I realized I had no idea what I was doing. I just like started running around. At first, they were going to put me out near the Vienna woods for my host family, but it was going to be a brutal commute to school every day. So they put me in the second district, right across the canal from where IES is. So over there, I was just running all over the place the first 5 or 6 weeks. Not even that, probably the first 2 weeks. And then I stumbled around this running club. It's called the Laufen Konditionsclub Wien, right on the bank of the Danube Canal. I just walked in, introduced myself, met the coach, and that suddenly gave me a way to continue running competitively while I was in Vienna.
Okay. You kind of jumped into the next question
Oh,
perfectly. So, did
okay.
staying active or involved in sports influence any concerns you had before going abroad? And
Okay.
as you were explaining, how did you navigate those once you arrived, other than finding the running club per se?
All right, I'll come back to that answer again then.
Yeah.
So while I was in Vienna, I was just kind of running on my own, doing laps up and down the Danube Canal or out in the Prater Park, not really directed in any way. I fortunately stumbled across this running club called the Laufen Condition Club. Had this super famous Austrian runner named Adolf Gruber was the coach, and he kind of recruited me for the club, began coaching me, began doing workouts with that whole club. Um, I think now the students probably have a much, much easier time of doing this. Most sports are so international now. I think it's much easier now to go on the internet, to Google, to find clubs, to find coaches, to find teams anywhere in the world, really, whether you're going to Barcelona or Buenos Aires or whatever, to find people doing your sport. Late 1970s, that didn't exist. You just had to, you know, fly with it and just see what happened when you got there. But I think now there's a lot more opportunities. Find a Facebook find a Facebook group of distance runners in Vienna or an equestrian group in Barcelona or whatever. I think now it's a much easier process to become a student athlete who's abroad for a semester or a year.
Mhm. So, as an athlete studying abroad, what did a typical day look like for you, and how did you balance training, academics, and exploring Vienna?
Well, for sure, I didn't want to let exploring Vienna slip.
Yeah.
Um, I was very dialed in. That's why I was there. But I also loved my running. I was competing in college, competing in road races in the U.S. So when I got to, now I've lost the thread of the question.
Oh, like what did the day look like? How
Oh,
were you able to balance it
yeah.
all?
So when I got hooked up with the LCC Wien Club, then most days they were doing their workouts late afternoon. So I just got up, same time as my flatmate, Stuart Tom. We'd have breakfast, we'd walk over to Freyung, have our day of classes, have our lunch there, do whatever studies maybe afterwards in a study hall, and then I'd get back home in the second district by probably about 4 o'clock, I'd say, sometimes three, and then run with the club. Monday through Fridays, we'd run around 4:30, 5 o'clock, intervals, fartleks, whatever workouts we were doing. And then on the weekends, no classes, I'd run with them in the morning, and it's usually Saturday mornings, 8 o'clock or something. But it just worked out a nice balance where I was training once a day compared to later in my career when I was a two-a-day athlete. But
Mhm.
once a day was enough, and it gave me the time. Usually, even if we had something going on in the evening, I'd do that workout with the LCC group, and then I could go back in and go to a concert, go to the opera, go to a coffee house, whatever. So I think I navigated it pretty well to not let any of the three parts slip away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So many student athletes worry they can't study abroad without falling behind in their sport or team life. What would you say to them? It's a good
Okay,
one.
I'll be honest on this. If you're a team athlete on a scholarship, you have your obligations. They're paying your tuition, they're covering things. You're kind of obligated there. But if we come back to the idea of, particularly if you're in an individual sport, um, I think you want to take opportunities like this. You want to get in a new training environment. You want to try new training partners. Maybe you'll meet a coach like I did with Adolf Gruber, with a much different idea of training compared to your college coach. So all of that opens up to you in a new way. I'd say also, even if you are in a team sport, don't automatically dismiss the idea of studying abroad. You could do it for a semester. If you're on baseball, then go do the autumn abroad. If you're on soccer, do your spring abroad or do a summer semester. I think it's a way to do this and keep that balance, keep the commitments to your team back home, but also get the enriching experience of being abroad for a while.
Mhm. Yeah. So now you're a sports agent working with Olympic athletes. How did your time abroad shape your approach to your career and working in global sports?
Um, I would say there's pretty direct connection. So I did my semester in Vienna. Although I had done an earlier trip abroad when I was 15 years old, it's that semester in Vienna and training there and running there and doing a race with foreigners. It just made me think a different way about where my career was going. As a math major, I'd been thinking things like maybe I'll be an actuary, maybe I'll do something with the mathematics. But what ended up happening is I got back from Vienna, and my senior year, I took a part-time job with a company called Marathon Tours. I was their first employee, and they brought people to marathons all over the world. This was really great for me, kind of combined two of my interests of travel and uh, racing. But then I ended up, well, actually through a coincidence, a professor named Alan Henriksen sat next to my parents at the World Figure Skating Championship one year, heard about me, told him about this school where he taught called the Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy outside Boston. It's on the campus of Tufts.
Mhm.
And he said, "Your son sounds like somebody who should come in and see us." And I had no concept of this at all, but I did. I went in and talked to Professor Hendrickson. I met a lot of the faculty. I thought, yeah, this is where I want to go. I want to do something with international sports, and this is going to be my way to do it. So, got my master's there, wrote my thesis on it was on how Japanese athletes are represented in foreign media. And it just very much became where my career was headed. So out of my time in Vienna, it definitely led to like, okay, now I want to go into something international. I want to go into something international sports. Did that for my master's. Did a little bit of work overseas in Japan for a while. Actually, 6 years I lived in Tokyo. But when I came back from that, that's where I started the company now, where I've been working with all these Olympic level athletes for the last 30 years.
Awesome. Um, Looking back, what's one piece of advice you wish you've been given before or during your study abroad experience?
Stay longer. That's
Amen.
simple. I stayed for just a semester, And I regretted it as the years went on. And I think now, I'm 66. I, whatever, 50 years, 45 years ago, I was in Vienna, but I've had my own athletic career, which has been from high school to now. I'm still doing road races this summer. But I think what it's tough to dial in when you're 17, 18, 19 to realize like I have a long, long life of whatever this is that's my passion, whether it's playing the piano or doing the sports or studying medicine, whatever it is. 4 months or 8 months or 10 months, you're talking about such a fraction of what your entire life is going to be. And I know it seems like right now, being there for spring training for my baseball team seems the most important thing. And it is. I understand. I've been there too, because I understand what it's like as an athlete. Every day is important. You're just passionate to get out there and train and compete. But I'm telling you all, like coming from the other end of it where I am, I really wish I'd taken 8 months rather than 4 months in Vienna.
Agreed. Okay, so you recently returned to Vienna for the IES Abroad Alumni Weekend. What was it like reconnecting with the city and seeing how it's changed since your time as a student there?
It's interesting. When I left Vienna, I think like most people who do a junior abroad say, I'm going to be here every year the rest of my life.
Hmm.
It was 10 or 12 years before I got back. I went through grad school, then I lived in Tokyo for 6 years, and one thing led to another, and suddenly it was whatever, 12 years after. So after that, I'd been there 10 times, 12 times over the years. So it wasn't a completely new experience to be back. But my experiences when I went back were very different. I was there with an Olympic athlete one time who we had trained at altitude, and we went to Vienna to do our sea level training before the Athens Olympics. So
Wow.
that was one visit. But had this other remarkable 3 year stretch where 3 years in a row, one of my athletes won the Vienna Marathon. And if, among other things, if your athlete wins the Vienna Marathon, you get to have coffee with the president of Austria the next day. So 3 years in a row, I got to have coffee with Heinz Fischer, the president.
Mhm.
He was the coolest guy. He was like so non-presidential. So I had all these like good experiences in Vienna over the years. But then when I went back, it was another totally new experience. It was just pure fun. It was so great to see some of my former classmates, Chrissy Temmon, Stuart Tom. The three of us hung out for pretty much the whole 5 to 6 days while we were there. And it was, I would say the IES staff were just fantastic to spend time with. You guys had all kinds of programs for us. I did a culinary tour. Obviously you did a museum tour. But what I really enjoyed was the couple of programs I did one-on-one with the current students. We did one kind of conversation group where it ended up being rather than rotating partners, you just sat down, you were one on one with a student for 2 hours. And I thought, what am I going to talk to a 19-year-old for about 2 hours? And this woman was so fascinating. And she was so curious. I was so curious. The 2 hours flew by in no time at all. Another thing we did was a Stammtisch group. And there, I think there's one other alumnus and I, and we were with like 5 or 6 of the current students. And what I was most impressed about is like how sharp these kids were. They were like so dialed in. They knew exactly why they had gone overseas to study. I'm here for pre-med. I'm here for psychology. I'm here for classical music, piano. Everybody had their thing to be there for. Whereas in my class, I think we more had the idea of like, this is just an adventure. I want to do something new. I'll get over there and whatever they're offering, I'll just study it. But I think the kids now are very specific about, they knew why they were there. They knew what they wanted to study, how it fit in with their major, how it fit in with their college students. And I was very impressed with all of them. So the entire week just made me see how much IES has grown, uh, how much, I wouldn't say it was unprofessional before, but just how helpful it is to students now that it's not just giving them an adventure overseas, but it's also helping them whatever their career or whatever their dreams are. That was the impression I had from this time around.
Mhm. Oh, it's giving me all warm and fuzzies remembering
No,
everything.
seriously, it was so much fun.
It was so much. I forget, did you run into any of there was a couple athletes I think I told you I that I ran into during one of the German refreshers.
I met one kid who runs a lot, and it's funny, they gave me email addresses, and three of them asked for my email. I wrote to all three of them, nothing came back. One girl who was out of Dominican Republic, she wrote back because I do some volunteer work with a school program in Haiti.
Mhm.
So, next door neighbors. She was really interesting. But the kid who runs, I had all this stuff I was going to do for him. I said, hey, I can get you in this race. I can like get you in the New Year's Eve run, which I would have loved to do, but never heard back from him.
No, I spent the one German refresher course with a bunch of field hockey players from Denison, and that's what I
Oh,
like, and that's what I played
yeah,
growing up, and it was
fun. I'm
oh, it
sure.
was so much fun.
Yeah,
All right, next question. We only have a few more. How
sure.
did being an athlete influence how you connect with people abroad through teamwork, discipline, competition? You know.
For sure, there's a discipline of, okay, I'm trying to do a workout. I'm trying to do my studies. I'm trying to take advantage of Vienna. How do I fit my days like this? And I think anybody who's half seriously pursuing a sport, especially if you're competitive, you just naturally, okay, this is my block for athletics, this is my block for studies, this is my block for classes. Here's where I'm either going to go to a coffee shop or a cafe or the opera.
Mhm.
I think that discipline fits into it. Um, I think also you tend to make plans better,
Yeah.
um, to sketch things out like, where do I want to be in 6 months or 12 months? Or as I talk with my potential Olympians, where do you want to be in 3 years or 5 years? I think that definitely coming from the sports world, I think that's an advantage and kind of a self-taught discipline
Hmm.
um, of planning your days, planning your life, thinking where you can go.
Hmm. Agreed.
Yeah.
In your opinion, why should, and you've touched on this, why should college athletes consider studying abroad today?
Um, well, there's two sides to it. One is the studies, and one is being an athlete abroad. I think as a student, people should be doing this just because it's one of the great adventures of your life. I think more often than not, it's going to change your life for the good, and it's going to give you a new spin on, oh, I thought I wanted to do this, but now I realized I love art history, or I love classical music, but I'm kind of interested in psychology now. And just the environment of walking out your door every day. As I mentioned, I also had 6 years I lived in Tokyo. And as anybody who's really lived abroad knows, it's just that feeling every day of stepping out your door in this totally foreign environment. And it's just, you get a bit of a rush. It's kind of
Mhm.
a kick out of being there. Like, what's going to happen? What am I going to say? It's new today. Or it's like, oh, I'm going to go talk to, we had Kartoffel Joe, the guy who sold the roasted potatoes across the street from Freyung, the palace. And who am I going to meet today? Who am I going to like work on my German with? Or, oh, maybe I'm going to walk in the supermarket today and I'm actually going to ask for the right size ham or something. It's just all those little bits of progress
Yeah.
you get going along. It just makes the whole thing so much fun day to day. As an athlete, I mentioned this earlier. Yeah, it never hurts anybody, particularly now in 2026, to be out there training in a new environment, competing in a new environment, meeting new athletes, working with new coaches. Over my career, I think I probably ran or raced in about 20 countries. I probably ran in 40 or 50, but on my professional side, I probably helped athletes. I remember we had one Olympics, I had athletes from 10 countries in the Olympics. Um, I think for all of you as student athletes, it's realizing how much you're going to get, not just, oh, I have to put my athletics on hold. It's like, no, I'm going to get something out of this. It's probably going to make me a better athlete. Just thinking like, rather than just following, okay, this is the only way I know how to train. This is the only way I know how to race. This is the only way I know how to hit a golf ball. This is the only way I know how to jump barriers in equestrian. You're going to learn new things to like make you a better all-around athlete in your sport. So, absolutely go for it.
Okay, and last question is anything else you'd like to add? Any other thoughts? Things you
Yeah,
think?
I was thinking about this, and I'll come back to my week back with the 75th reunion. And what I thought was really interesting towards the last dinner or two, I realized like all these people I was meeting just had the most interesting lives.
Hmm.
Meeting all the alumni. We had one woman in a group when we did the culinary tour over the Noshmark. She'd been on a boat sailing over in 1952 or 1954. But she also had an interesting life after that. And as everybody, whether they went into diplomatic corps or international business or Madison Avenue marketing, I just felt like across the board, I didn't meet anybody who like had a life or a career that I thought was dull. And it's kind of a chicken and egg question, like, well, did these people have these interesting lives and interesting careers because it started with their study abroad? Maybe. Or is it the type of people who are adventurous and curious enough to do something like a junior abroad are the type who are going to go there onward and have an interesting career, an interesting life, an interesting athletic career. One or the other. But I'll say out of everything that happened out of that week, when I think about IES alumni now, that was my impression. Like, man, these people just have interesting lives.
Oh yeah, and they're so dynamic.
Oh, that too. Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh.
Proactive about everything. And yeah, you're dealing with alumni all the time. And I wasn't thinking about it at first, but it's just like, man, just somebody just made this great story about their career.
Mhm.
Chrissy Temmons is telling me about like Hillary Clinton may have been in the Tokyo embassy, wherever she was working, and like spend the day with her and her advanced crew and everything.
Mhm.
You do all this, these people are like close to you for your 4 months or 8 months overseas. It's like, whatever happened? And all of a sudden, for us, it was kind of cool that we hadn't been in great contact. And all of a sudden, to hear whatever he did, it's like, wow, this is amazing.
Mhm. Yeah, because
Yeah.
had you seen Chrissy or Stuart much since, or
Stewart, maybe the first year afterwards. It was a complete, when I saw him on the list, I managed to track him down. I think you sent it to me. Somebody
I
sent me
think I
his,
did. Yeah, I think
yeah.
it was me.
And like now I'm seeing Stewart every time I go to New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
We went to like a Broadway show with two of his friends and like we did the whole New York thing. Went to Sardi's and got cocktails, went to a Broadway show, we went to dinner at Rockefeller Center. And now like next week we'll figure out something else to do. And then Chrissy, we just text.
yeah.
Yeah. So
But
yeah.
it's and even across I mean, my favorite thing with these weekends is when we get alums from all different years, just seeing you guys all interact with each other and like
Yeah.
it's a really great basis to get to know people.
Yeah.
That shared study abroad experience.
Yeah, there was one of them we did. I think it was the culinary tour, like walk around the Noshmark, and it's much younger alumnus, like maybe she was 30. And we just like had something specific to talk about, talked our way all the way back into, whatever, half a mile further down the road. And it was like, oh, let's go to Cafe Havelka, continue the conversation. And
Yeah.
she was another one really interesting. Like I said, so we had somebody who was like 25 years older than me, and this one was 35 years younger than me. And we had great conversations with everybody.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah. And the one who took the boat over. It was such a different world.
hearing the stories of them taking the boats over, burning coal is another one of my favorite Vienna stories that I hear. And that's telling like this, like when the students hear that, it's just mind blowing to them.
Yeah, and they took a full month to
Yeah.
get from whatever the port was to get to Vienna as a
Hmm.
group.
I,
Did you
I,
ever see Chariots of Fire?
yeah.
Yeah, I've seen it 127 times, I think.
I
But
we're talking sports here, Brendan. Of
yeah,
course
yeah,
I've seen Chariots of Fire.
yeah. So they that scene where like the British team is on the boat
Yeah.
and they're sailing over to France
Yes.
and they're all like a camaraderie and it's only an overnight boat, but it's still when I heard that woman talk about the 1952 steamship, all I could think of was that scene from Chariots of Fire.
We're gonna connect this to sports movies and
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, why not?
Yeah.
It's
By the
just
way, did you get a boost from the Bears the other night?
I'm not a Chicago fan.
I think
I'm
you're a
probably
Giants
closer to
fan then.
you. I'm a New England fan. I had last night was a great night for
Oh,
me
I turned it off when they took the lead.
when the Pats took the lead.
Yeah, but at least the Eagles lost, so that made up for it.
I agree. I did not even have that game on my television yesterday.
Yeah, yeah.
I have, yeah. I think, do you have any other thoughts? And then I'll hit the record
Oh
again.
no, that was actually when I saw that question, I kept that. You can delete it or whatever from that point, but it was
Okay.
mainly